very much.
I did find that.
Okay.
Even though it's not in your area.
No, it's very nice to know that.
Still, I just like to be almost a mile and a half away from the development.
Yeah. Well, thank you, though. I appreciate the information very much.
Okay, it's rolling.
Available to come back.
Let's wait for a second for Bob.
Okay.
Hey, Dan, when you quoted the time I came in, you were looking at the clock. They didn't turn that back for daylight savings.
Yeah, it's 6:52 when he came in, not 7:52.
Yeah, I wrote it down too. 6:50.
So you just have to adjust that.
Well, you got the same pay now, right?
What?
You got the same paycheck, right?
Oh, well.
Did everybody get a paycheck in your name?
Thank you.
Very important. All right, we'll go back into session. Next item is a request from Green Valley Sanitary District for funding for their wastewater project out in Rapid Valley. And here representing Green Valley is Interstate Engineering, and Zach Rappentine is going to give the presentation for Green Valley.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Zach.
Is that covering the mic?
It is not.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm Zach Robinson with Interstate Engineering. I also have a couple gentlemen from Green Valley here, Jason Reitz, Lucky Lee, and Marlon Kelly. I'm here to request funding for the Green Valley Sanitary District for their sanitary sewer infrastructure project out in Green Valley. The big need for this project is based on this their existing septic tanks in the area of the 271 resident lots that over the years have been failing, that need to be removed and need to be put on this sewer system. And Green Valley was created years ago to bring water and sewer to the district, and their biggest thing is they want to dissolve once they're able to achieve that, and they achieved the water in 2010, and now we're looking at the sewer. The sewer project contains about 50,000 linear feet of gravity sewer, assuming one lift station and gravity flow from east to west. The idea is to connect to the Rapid City trunk lines that are existing out in the area, and to then run the sewer and treat it at the Rapid City plant just east of Green Valley. With that, Rapid City is charging Green Valley $250,000 for a connection fee, essentially, for the design to connect to their trunk lines, which initially was an unknown cost at the very beginning of the discussions. We've met with Rapid City over the years and come to the conclusion of they were going to operate and maintain, include billing, and at the end of the loan repayment, Green Valley was going to give over the system to Rapid City. There was an executed agreement in 2020 where the city actually offered the district water and sewer to do the operation, maintenance, billing, and such, and then Green Valley was going to turn over those to the district or to the city. And once the agreement was in place, rural development wanted certain aspects of it changed, altered, and with that, the city had decided to pull their water from the district, and also decided to pull the billing aspect of the agreement, and which has delayed the project immensely. Luckily, we've had discussions with Rapid Valley about them operating and maintaining the sewer system. Still, the city would have to be included in any kind of agreement because they treat also Rapid Valley's sewer. Currently, we have existing funding from DENR of $2.37 million. This is a $9.7 million project. The plan in place is rural development will issue the remaining funding. The hang-up right now with that is this agreement between Green Valley, Rapid Valley, and the city. The city has, I guess I would say, initially approved Rapid Valley taking Green Valley system, but they have to go through the council and get official approval to move forward. But the big thing here is that any funding we receive prior to rural development obligating any of their funds would deduct from their loan aspect of their loan grant package. Anything after they obligate, it would deduct from their grant package. So the point of requesting this funding is to try to bring down any costs we possibly can for the Green Valley residents, as they will be assessed. How they'll pay it back will be an assessment based off their yearly taxes. The milestones basically are coming up is we want to complete the funding process by 2020, design a project over the 2021 summer, and then 2022 construction. We're requesting $250,000 for this project, for the construction aspect of it. And that is all I have.
Well, one of the things that, I used to work for the city of Rapid City, and Green Valley this has been 20 years ago about, or more, and Green Valley, has had issues for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And kind of the way I look at this project is that with those septic tanks basically sitting in groundwater down there, mm-hmm. and those drain fields are basically contaminating the groundwater, mm-hmm. which runs right straight into Rapid Creek. So I kind of look at this project as a project to improve the water quality down in Rapid Creek. And I know there's still some shallow wells down there too, which is not a good situation. Yeah. But, I'm going to make a motion that we grant the $250,000 for your sanitary sewer project. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by James. Now, discussion on the motion. Nathan.
Are there areas within the subdivision that are that have more difficulty with their on-site wastewater disposal than others?
Yeah, there are certain areas that they're failing quicker. The southeast of the district area is failing more, but they're seeing more and more across the whole community, essentially.
Dan, could you, when you get done, could you put the map up there?
Sure.
So we could look at that?
Yeah, the area along South Side and Reservoir Road in that area is starting to fail more. But like I said, across the whole district.
In the floodplain.
In the floodplain.
Okay, so that's the concern that I have with this is, do you know how many properties are within, so what we're looking, and we can't really see it that well here, but I'm used to looking at these maps, and I'm pretty sure that red hash within the map is floodway. Is that correct?
Yep, you are correct.
So basically, floodway means that those areas are expected to flood in a flood event, mm-hmm. right?
Yep.
So, so it looks like there are a significant number of properties within the subdivision that are within that floodway. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm wondering, has there been any thought to moving those people out of the floodway, out of places that are expected to flood in a flood event, rather than encouraging them to stay with installing expensive infrastructure to keep them there?
I mean, I don't think there has been any discussion of that.
Okay.
Is that in the floodway or in the floodplain?
The red?
Yeah.
I think that's the floodway, and the floodplain is the yellow, but I can't.
I can't really see it, okay.
That box there, actually, I can't really. Couldn't get a good screen.
Kind of hard to see that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
That's gonna be floodplain is gonna be the yellow
I
around
can't.
it.
Yeah,
And
the
those maps were updated after 2000 by FEMA. The floodplain and floodway was a lot smaller when that subdivision was built. That's why it was built in the first place, otherwise it would have never been allowed. Also,
Okay, here it is.
when you get into the red area, even though there's a lot of lots cut up there, a lot of those are not occupied. They were developed initially and then were not allowed to build.
Yeah, like the
for
process.
numerous reasons, including perk tests and
Yeah.
FEMA insurance, because it would not cover new construction builds in that area.
Yeah.
So the yellow is the floodplain then, and the red is the floodway, correct?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
and most of them are, there's a lot of manufactured homes that are on, elevated, so they're up above the flood level. The problem is that the sewer tanks are below that.
All
So
right,
you get a heavy wet year and they float.
All right,
Even an empty tank will pop to the surface.
I'm familiar with it. Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So is the green sewer map to the south as well also going to service all of those customers?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's even.
Yep. They want to get the whole district.
Okay. Nathan, you have another question?
Yep. How much of the proposed system would be installed within the floodway, within these areas expected to flood?
I guess I don't have an actual percentage. Looking at the map, I wouldn't say maybe a quarter of it.
I have another question for you. As far as when you would need this money, it looks to me like it's going to be in 2022.
Yeah.
And I understand that one of the reasons you're requesting this now is because of putting together this funding package up front. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct.
So we wouldn't actually be getting money to you until 2020.
Till 2022.
During construction.
Yeah, during
For
construction.
construction only.
Yep, you're correct. Yes,
That's
yes,
what I
sir.
understood. Any, Ron?
I'm just curious, you mentioned it's been a really long
Yeah.
standing problem, and on page 33, it talks about, that these septic systems have been failing for a long time.
Mhm.
How is that, taking place when I thought Pennington County had fairly strict rules on what we had to do to maintain and upgrade and make the code?
They did a perk test on a dry year.
Well, and a lot of the residents actually have holding tanks because of the spillways have failed, essentially. And so there's I don't know exactly what the date is, but they have a date set where they allow these holding tanks, but that's going to expire sooner. But I don't know an exact date on that.
So then they just have to pump those on a real regular basis?
Yeah.
Nathan?
Sorry to keep going back to this. I guess I'm just very concerned about, again, installing expensive infrastructure to support places that we know are going to flood. And then I'm wondering what kind of special construction do you anticipate for installing some of that infrastructure in those areas, like manholes, et cetera?
So sealing the manholes is going to be, there's a special sealant that you put on top of within the manholes that seal it from the water going in. And then as for the lift station too, that's another one that we have to build above the floodway or move it out of the floodway just so we can avoid that getting flooded as well.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I'm going to say nay.
One nay by Nathan. Motion carries. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that moves us to item 12, Town of Keystone Water System Repairs Project. James, that's your project. Did you introduce your, yes?
Shabilsky.
Can you speak in the,
Yeah. I'm Cassandra Ott. This
Okay.
is Jerry Shabilsky. I'm the finance officer, and this is the public works supervisor of Keystone.
okay?
We have an outdated SCADA system for our water system. We just worked on a very large sewer project to update our sewer plant. And of course, infrastructure being what it is, it's all about the same age. And our water SCADA system is it doesn't have any of the alarms.
No, and Linda probably remembers our well 3 across from the Holiday Inn used to be a vault underground. We actually moved that above ground now, and it's not hooked to our SCADA system anymore. And we have well 5, which is new, which is not hooked to the SCADA system. They're all operated by hand right now. So we're updating our SCADA system to get alarms on there. We have a lot of lightning in Keystone. Like last year we lost like 5 transducers. So when you lose a transducer, it says your tanks are empty, so then your wells will kick on. Well, my tank might be full already. So we don't have an alarm. So then my tank runs over until we get there in the morning, or if I see it and get that feeling to go there and just check and find out, uh-oh, then I got to go manually shut all my wells off instead of having the SCADA system do it. So I've been there 11 years, and that SCADA system was in there then, and it's really outdated. That's why we are working with Dakota Pump to put a new one in that's more efficient. So,
It's
I have a question. Do you have a reserve fund for things like this in your utility program?
We do have a reserve fund. I believe in 2018, we had a lot of water breaks, and so we ended up spending more money than we did on, utility rates. Right now, our utility rates are keeping up with most of our expenses. This is kind of an extra expense added on top of a couple of extra expenses we've had in the past couple of years, so.
and with COVID this year, our water sales are down, which in turn, our sewer is down.
People aren't comfortable staying in hotels, and hotels are our main source of income, so.
Sure.
Like in a day in the summer, we'll run 250,000 gallons. In the winter, when it's no tourists there, I might pump 15,000 gallons. That's that big a difference.
We're extremely seasonal, so.
So this year really hurt us.
James?
And the reason why I brought them here is because right now they have safety measures that are lacking. They have lightning strikes that are causing damage to their system. And we're in a position to not pay for it in full. If you look at how much they're spending between what they've already spent this year and what they're forecasted to spend next year, they're only asking for 17%. Their project's over $120,000. It's over $145,000. They're only asking for $25,000 from us. And so I would move that we approve this since it's a water safety and management issue.
First, the 25,000.
It's only $25,000 is what they're asking.
Okay, so is there, your motion is for 25,000?
My motion is for $25,000 to approve.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
That's second.
Second by Bob, okay. I was gonna ask them, do you have an actual bid for that SCADA system?
Yeah.
We did, we included it in the,
Oh,
it's in
okay.
your packet. That should
It'll
be.
also put alarms on our well houses, so if somebody would get in there and try to tamper with
I'm
our
sorry, it's not
system.
in the packet, but I did include it.
Is it? I don't see it.
I didn't see it in the packet, but I did include the bid to my email.
Yeah,
Okay, so you
Dan has them.
you actually have a bid?
Yes.
Okay. Nathan?
I understand what you're talking about. I work for the city of Box Elder. We have similar issues. A big part of the city of Box Elder's income is from hotel rentals likewise. The Bradskys own that Marriott chain that's over by Elkvale on I-90, and I know a lot of that has been way down. I think there are a lot of communities that are faced with the same situation that you guys are facing right now. The city of Box Elder has, it's not really even a SCADA system, it's a monitoring system for our wells. And so the way that I look at this is that this is not an essential thing. It would be a very nice thing to have. The city of Box Elder would love to have that also. We're budgeting for that and working our way toward that. There are probably any number of other communities like Custer and so forth that would love to have a nice SCADA system also. So from my perspective, I don't think it's our job to be looking at communities like this and trying to pick winners or losers or whatever. I'm not going to vote in favor of this, and it's not a reflection on you guys at all. I understand the need, but I don't think that it's our job to be funding things like this that are nice to have, okay? I think if this was an absolute essential thing, in other words, you guys didn't have water, you're coming to the board for some kind of fix to get, you know, an emergency situation resolved, I think that would be a different deal. But if it's a situation, you know, that it would be nice to have, I don't think that, I'm not going to support that. So I just wanted to let you know where I was coming from.
Tom?
So how much damage has this caused? Like how much financial damage has this caused for not having this due to the lightning storm? You guys have like a quantifiable number?
I know the reservoir is damaged. One of them is because it overfilled.
Mm-hmm.
We had one of our main wells froze, and because there was no alarm system, we didn't know it was that cold, and so we had to replace the meter and a lot of the pipes. I don't.
And because we didn't have an alarm, the one morning I came in early, and I looked at the tank level on there, and it said 1 foot. We had a break at midnight. It drained my tank down from 25 feet to 1 foot in 6 hours. And if that tank would have went dry, I got over there to the Christmas tree, shut the right valve off to stop it from draining completely out. If you get air in the line, then you probably know, once you get air in the line from your reservoir, which is 12 inches, and it keeps going down, you'll blow fixtures in buildings right off the walls. We had it happen once before in the Super 8, and it took the meter right out of the basement right to the first floor. So it was just dumb luck that I came in early that morning and caught it.
So just to follow up, are you the only one that really works with the water, being the water supervisor, or is it because it sounds like you're the only one that looks at this, and if you're sleeping in it?
I have 2 other guys, but
okay.
Like right now, even at our sewer plant, I'm the only one that gets an alarm.
Okay.
If something happens, and then I would call one of the other guys. If I didn't go take care of it myself,
Okay.
I would call somebody else.
So
We basically rely on Jerry's hinky feeling to catch things before bad things happen.
Heidi.
Linda, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if Linda was first.
Are you
or-
first, Linda? Linda, you haven't said much.
I think I was, but.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess in part for the board's benefit, first of all, I can understand your SCADA system is a need, and, you know, wouldn't just be a nice thing to have. It can essentially help save your water system from more damage. But I think one thing we need to be aware of, in Pennington County, there are 66 community public water systems. That includes municipalities, rural water systems, and homeowner associations. And I think we need to be aware of our role and our precedent as far as supporting individual water systems. Because essentially every one of them could come to us and say, we need this. And so I think we need to have some priorities and some direction for who and how we can support. And unfortunately, I don't know that this really goes along with our mission statement either. I agree with some of the things that Nathan had said. You know, otherwise I would love to support this as well, but I just don't think that, you know, there's other avenues for water systems to get some funding. One, through their ratepayers. I assume that, you know, your rates are adequate or enough, but sometimes they have to be more.
And let's see, Wendy, I think you're next.
I did, and thank you for coming tonight. So I completely respect where you're coming from, and I did look this up just so I know exactly what this was. To my peers on the board, and I just also want to make sure I appreciate you coming and understand where you're coming from and how very seasonal you guys are. I will not also be voting for this tonight. I think where I'm coming from, and I am skirting the edges of conflict here, but we're turning down a group of people who come to this board tonight who says there's 191 homes that is in danger of being out of water, and we don't know when. Take me out of the picture. I have a place to go. I'm fine. Pretend I don't even live there. But we're not going to entertain even the idea. It's not a sewer issue. It's literally out of water. Possibly in the next 2 years. Who knows? And granted, I don't think we got the full picture tonight, but I will tell you, I am frustrated with the response that they got. And we just approved $250,000 just like that. And we have turned down a community of over 191 homes in between a place. They have nowhere to go. Again, take me out of the picture. I have family nearby. Doesn't matter to me. I can go anywhere. But let's keep this in perspective, in a need to have and a want to have. And you've got families who are trying to take care of their kids. So, sorry, I'm projecting, and it's not about you guys at all. I really respect that you came here. But, again, in the short time I've been here, where are we spending our money?
James?
A lot of people want to say this is a want. If that reservoir went dry, they would have had breaks that would have uplifted cars in the street. It would have possibly even killed people inside of homes. This isn't a want. If they don't put that stuff in, people will be hurt. And only for dumb luck, it didn't happen because somebody goes to work early. And if you want to talk about giving a municipality of, how many people live in Keystone annually? 2,300?
327, but we get 2 to 4 million people go through Keystone in the summer.
And we wanted to give Rapid City, who charges how much money? I'm looking at, a bunch of engineers that like giving the city of Rapid money. But we can't give a tiny municipality a little bit of what they're asking for. They're not even asking for the whole shebang. They came in polite enough, only asked for a little bit. And we want to help the city of Rapid design better storm drains because their engineers, I don't know, didn't do it the first time right, second time right, third time right. We gave money to a park, $25,000, so people can enjoy a fountain versus the whole city of Keystone's drinking water. That is a slap in the face. A slap. Let's not worry about a town. Let's give people a fountain. That's ridiculous.
James? Are you through?
I'm through. I would hope
Okay.
that you vote for this because
Okay. Nathan, your hands up.
I agree wholeheartedly with what Director Bialotta just said, as well as Director Noctegal. I've been very disappointed in some of the votes that we've taken. It shows, in my opinion, that we've got a lack of clarity on our priorities. But having said that, I will mention that I voted against all of those past things as well. Now, again, with the city of Box Elder, we've had to make tough calls. And we went through a year ago a situation where we had to raise the water rates, and that was not popular. And there were several of us that were on the front line that took a lot of heat over that. A lot of angry people at community meetings, angry phone calls, a lot of emotion associated with that, but we did it, and the water fund is now getting beefed up to the point where we're able to get these things that we want, like a SCADA system. That's on the funding plan for next year. So I don't know when you guys have last looked at your water rates and where you're sitting with those.
We raise them yearly.
Every
It's
year.
in our ordinance, so it's just this year was especially rough because of the lack of commercial customers.
Yep. Have you approached the state at all for any kind of COVID
We
relief
just got a lot of
funds?
funding for the state for our projects last year, so no, we have not approached the state.
Yeah.
Can you say again what the benefit of this would be if you were to receive the 25?
Well, in the long run, it would save the town money in maintenance costs in water.
If we have any leaks or something, it would let us know so we wouldn't be pumping water. When we had the one where we went down to foot, all my 5 wells came on. They were pumping, and it was just pumping it out. We just had to break 2 breaks on the same day in August. 412 gallons a minute was pouring out in the ground. And it's lucky it was in the middle of the summer because it was right near Sturgis. So we had tons of people going, there's water running down the road. I'm like, no, there's not.
In the winter, you
Yes,
wouldn't
there
have
is.
necessarily had that.
Yeah, because part of there's only 8 people on one side of town, so we
Sure.
run through there in the morning, we don't come back again until the next day. So if you had an alarm, and that's how Dakota pump's setting it up, if it goes below a certain drops pressure, it gives you a call and says, hey, there's something going on in your system right now. Or if somebody breaks into one of our well houses and tampers with our equipment, as soon as that door's open unauthorized, it will alarm us and say, hey, you better get down there, something's going on in your building. Or if the heater goes out, we won't have the issue of the things freezing up because that's all.
Well, and as someone who writes the checks, transducers are not cheap.
No.
Meters, especially meters for wells, are not cheap. That heavy-duty pipe for wells is not cheap. Maintaining a water system, which you all know, is extremely expensive. It gets more expensive when things break because you didn't know that something was wrong.
And you have
So.
limited number of people who
Right.
Yeah.
maintain, sure.
So this is where technology is going to boost the fact they have a small staff. Instead of going out and hiring 5 more staff, which would be $100K a year, they're going to do this, and it'll keep their system for the same price for the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, and when we originally got a quote for this project, it was $70,000. And then this year, we actually decided we were going to do it because we've been saving for a while, and it came out much like double what we were told it would be. So that's where some of the sticker shock is coming from as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? The motion on the floor is to approve $25,000 for Keystone's project. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, same sign. Nay. Roll call.
Okay, roll call on the motion for 25,000. Mack.
Aye.
Williams.
No.
Nadegal.
Yes.
Jovic.
No.
Driscoll.
Yes.
Bjerke.
No.
Koth. I'm sorry?
Aye.
Harris.
This is to approve?
To approve, right.
Aye.
Violata.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to number 13, evaluation of water management improvement for Dakota/Deerfield system based on future inflow projections from South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. Ron, would you want to introduce Dr. Waterman?
Sure. Dr. Waterman is going to be presenting tonight on this project. You've seen him before. He was the advisor for Rosemary Squillis, who did the evaluation of Dakota Deerfield system. Which one was?
11, 10, 20.
And how water was being managed there in terms of meeting all the needs under the constraints of the Bureau Reclamation guidelines. And so when Rosemary presented her information along with Dr. Waterman to a lot of different groups, kind of during and in the process of finishing up her master's project, there was quite a lot of interest, I think even here at the board, in adding on to what she had done, which was based primarily on historical records, some more predictive ability to help people understand how we can do a better job of what we have right here. Dr. Waterman will tell us a little bit about how much we annually spill on an average basis. It's almost as much as our future use water rights. So if we can figure out how to do a better job of managing what we have here, we might be able to do some things to service some of these municipal needs, address some of the flood concerns, and just do a better job of the whole system.
All right. Microphone.
Can you identify yourself?
Yep, I'm David Waterman with the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. So I'm going to be talking about this proposal for an extension of a study that we started back in 18 and completed in 2019. And it was almost a year ago to the day that I presented the final with Rosemary, the final report to the district. But I'm going to kind of set up what we did and then tell you what I'm wanting to do to move it forward. And it follows very similar to some of the logic we heard earlier from Dr. Chapman, where we're in a situation now where we're trying to maintain momentum, that there's going to be some decisions being made about water management from the Bureau and the city of Rapid City, and we just want to make sure that our study doesn't die and get forgotten. So let's build momentum for this. So if you could proceed to the next slide. So this just kind of sets it up. Our analysis the first time around was looking at Deerfield and Pactola as a system. So not as individual pieces with individual volumes, but as a whole system. And how do we manage the outflows from the reservoir to make the most use of the water that we have. So we'd evaluated a number of different outflow strategies that differ from the way that the Bureau currently operates, and found, like Ron was saying, that a lot of water gets wasted. So, and by wasted I mean they're just trying to get rid of water because it's in the flood pool, and there's no use of that. There's no definite intention for that water other than just to get rid of it. So when we talk about wasted or spilled water, that's the 7,000 acre feet that we're talking about. So that's the system. You know, we looked at those operations. So if you could go to the next slide. As part of that process, you know, you complete a study like that, and part of your task is always to look forward. What's the next step? What can we do? You know, we showed that, you know, we could reduce the spill just by changing management regimes by about a third. Can we make it better? So it's part of my job to try to look into the future and see what is the next step that we can do to improve the management of this system. And undoubtedly, the next step, whether it happens by way of me or by somebody else, is going to be going. Phase one is what we did before with the Water Development District. Phase two is going to be taking into account future inflows in making these management recommendations. So right now, the way that management decisions are made are they evaluate where the pool is, what inflow is coming in, and time at that point stops, and they make a decision. As far as what's going to happen a day from now or 2 days from now, if you knew, that would have a significant influence on how you made your adjustment today to the outflows. Now this effort, this phase two, and the reason why I said this is kind of a momentum building effort, is that this phase two is a multi-year, hundreds of thousands of dollar research effort that is going to require a federal grant. This is something that's not going to be paid by the Water Development District. Now, hopefully, we can leverage the support, you know, that we can get people from the district to say, yeah, we support this grant. Hopefully, we can get people from Rapid City, the city of Rapid City, and the Bureau to also put their support behind it. But in the meantime, if somebody was to ask me, you know, in terms of, you know, this multi-year, multi-$100,000 monitoring and modeling effort, how much are we going to get out of it? What is going to be the benefit of going in and going to all that effort? And right now, I cannot tell you. I can only tell you that it's going to be better. If you know what's happening tomorrow, you can do better today. Can we save all the difference between the 72 or 7,500 acre feet and the 2,500 acre feet that we're able to capture just by changing the management strategy? I don't know. So that's the question that this study answers, is if I know what's going to happen a week from now or in the next 10 days, how, and I make a new set of decision rules that takes into account the inflow in the future, the inflow right now, in the pool stage. How does my decision change? What benefit do I get from it? What if I look forward a month? If I know with certainty what's going to come in the next month, how does it change what I do now? And how much water do we save for use? So that's the nature of the study. Is it's totally, you know, what we did before was we built a working model that a water manager could use. This is theoretical. This is what's the most that we can, if we knew with certainty what was happening in the future, what's the most that we could get out of it? We know we're not going to get that much, but I don't know what that value is. Can we save 1,000 acre feet? Can we save 4,000 acre feet? I don't know. That's the nature of this study. So it's kind of a momentum building effort, and it's telling that the intention is to guide what sort of timescales are we looking at for us to have a hydrological model that's predictive? Is 10 days enough, or does it have to be a seasonal model for us to get any benefit out of it, at least in terms of the water spillage? So what I've got shown there is effectively what I'm proposing is this intermediate phase, is to try to constrain the benefit to be gained from moving on to this beefier effort that's going to happen, hopefully in the future. So if you could proceed to the next slide. This is just kind of an illustration of what we found in the last study. What you see there is the conservation pool, and the Bureau tries to maintain that pool pretty close to full. It oscillates very little when water is plentiful. Now the disadvantage of that is that when a flood comes through in the spring and the pool's full, well, you engage the flood pool and now you're flowing 500 CFS down Rapid Creek. If you knew what was going to happen a week from now, you start to evacuate water from the reservoir. So those are the types of answers that I'm trying to get at, is how much do we have to gain by this future knowledge. So if you could go to the next. And again, this is an illustration of the history of the stage. This is a reservoir that's 140 feet deep, and you can see that for long protracted periods of time it operates within that upper 6 feet, which means if something big comes in, it just gets flushed out. An ideal water management system would maintain enough volume to be able to store something that comes in and then use it for something useful. So what we were able, I say we pretty loosely because it was Rosemary, with some guidance from me, had made some management recommendations, again, that we found saved quite a bit of spilled water, and it involved operating over a larger range of, instead of being from 4580 to 4576, allow us to move or expand that zone of active storage. So if you could proceed to the next. And again, this was the final results, and I realized today when I was going through this presentation, Rosemary had done kind of 2 stages of analysis. One was a first pass to evaluate a whole bunch of different alternatives. And the numbers that I cited in the proposal that I prepared was from her first pass analysis. The numbers aren't totally different, but they did not reflect the final analysis after she parsed down from the big list to the small list and then ran out for thousands, 30,000 years. This is what we found was that on average 7,580 acre feet of water are being just spilled. Released for no good reason other than to maintain the pool. And then we found that we can't, by what rules that we looked at, that we can't save all of it. If we were able to save all of it, the flood pool shouldn't exist. So we figured through this statistical analysis that we were able to recover about 2,700 acre feet. So that was pretty good. And then again, the next step is how, if we have this ability to predict, what else can we get out of it? What's the most that we can get out of it? And that brings me to my second to last slide. And again, with those things in mind, what do we have to gain by moving to phase 2? And then my final slide, I pose it as a thought question. This is what the Bureau contends with. So up top is a time series of the inflow that's coming in at Silver City into Pactola. So they know what's coming in, and they know what the pool level is now, and they're going to make a decision today that's based on that. But I could envision 100 scenarios of things that are going to happen in the next month, that would change what I do today. And I need to know what's the most that we can expect to get out of it. Because this is the way that the rules are set up now, is that they look at what's at time equals right now, a decision is made. And we're saying, if we're going to improve this water management system, we have to start to look at what's happening in the future. So this presentation isn't quite as elegant as some of the earlier that you've seen, but that's the proposal that we've laid out, that we will then go through and do that analysis over different time scales and see how much can we save under the best of circumstances.
Just to follow up is one of the last presentations that Rosemary made. All the agencies were there. It was over at the mines before we all had to stay apart from one another. The Bureau of Reclamation in particular indicated that they were really interested in this type of supplemental information to help them, going forward. They weren't ready to sign up yet. They were really interested in it. And I think it's 4 years from now is when the Bureau and the city will be, working together to establish the next basically 10-year operating plan for the reservoir. So this would go into that mix, hopefully, along with the previous work that Rosemary did, so that maybe we can avoid some of the things that I know Bob mentions now and then, is there's just lots of water going down the creek. And then on the other side of the coin, you hear from the game and fish guys in the wintertime and say there's not enough water going down the creek. This would help us figure out, some of the parameters and the boundaries of what we might be able to do better. Because, again, one of the graphics that Dr. Waterman or Rosemary developed was there was a 5-gallon bucket there, and if you look at the top 1 inch of the bucket is how much the Bureau basically is managing in that reservoir. That's the fluctuation level in that reservoir. So there's a lot of room for, probably doing a better job and maybe even making some more water available for municipal uses, if we can figure it out better.
Ian had his hand up first.
That being said, the one thing we have to keep in mind is that they don't have to use this study. The Bureau of Rec, the School of Mines, none of them have to listen to us. Bureau of Rec and Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Rapid don't have to look at the study. They can use it for toilet paper and tell us we wasted our money, because they're ultimately the ones that control the spillways. The other thing is they have a set plan. But when that water hits a certain milestone, they release the floodgates because they don't want another dam failure. And nobody on this board, I don't care for whatever reason, is willing to say, well, let's push it another foot to see if we can really get it out of the lake so you can watch another dam failure like in '72.
I'm wondering how we save water. So let's say the reservoir is full. We anticipate, whatever, take a number, 5,000 acre feet of water coming in with a snow melt or something, whatever. I don't even know if I'm on the right scale there, but so in anticipation of that, you release enough water to accommodate what you're expecting to get. So how is that saving us water as opposed to leaving it full and then having the event happen and then you spill it after it happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a matter of releasing the water when it's of some use.
So what would we use it for?
So it would be, for instance, for low winter flows. It would be to maintain storage for a flood to come in, so that we release it, let's say, 65 or 70 CFS instead of 500. That's now granted that doesn't have anything to do with spill. That's a different function altogether. My suspicion is to get to the point to where we can actually save water from spillage, we probably are looking at like a seasonal timescale of prediction. For instance, if I look 10 days in front of me, I can, like you said, kind of spill it now, but it's still spilled water. I haven't really saved anything. I might have prevented a flood, but I've kind of pre-spilled the water. And I suspect that's what the study is going to show, that maybe at a 10-day NWS prediction timescale, we can do things like save flooding, but probably at the point of making large, like 500,000, 1,500 acre-foot gains in spill, I think that we're looking seasonally. That's my hunch.
Okay.
So where would you get these meteorological data from? What models or?
Yeah, so it's strictly going to be very similar in terms of the analysis as what we did with Rosemary. So it won't be like a forecast or anything like that. That's when we get to the full phase 2, where
Data. Okay.
That's right. So yeah, so we have a time series that right now when we do these simulations, you go up to the point in time where you're at right now, and you make that decision. But with the rest of the time series, then we're going to look forward.
Sure.
Okay. It's definitely not going to be perfect, but it's going to hopefully statistically represent all the possible scenarios that might exist.
When the water gets above the conservation level and goes into the flood pools, to my understanding, the Corps of Engineers takes charge of the discharges.
That's right.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So they're the ones that are deciding, okay, we're going to have to release 500 CFS to pull that water down as fast as we can to get back to the conservation pool maximum elevation.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so what you're saying is, if by using weather data, snowpack, that sort of thing, and you're expecting 5,000 acre peak come down, you're going to pull that conservation pool down some rather than letting that water go into the flood pool. Is that right?
Yes. So it's kind of like what Nathan was saying, that it's kind of a pre-spill.
Yeah.
So you're still spilling water, but you're potentially preventing a flood.
But you're preventing downstream bank erosion also.
Yeah, and
Possibly.
that's what the Corps uses their predictive models for. Like on the Missouri, is you'll hear them say, it's we're letting water out of Lake Oahe in anticipation of big water coming down, and they've got enough experience and enough forecasting ability to be able to do that pretty well. We don't.
Is there any other question, Ron?
It's very accurate what you said. It takes a lot of information to persuade, particularly the federal agencies, to move from something that they established in 1958. So this would just be another building block that they kind of asked for, that maybe we can help move the ball a little bit. The other part of it is if we can figure out how to save some water through this, spill regime, it maybe is an old project to resurrect, but we might be able to save that water here locally in some kind of a downstream reservoir and then to be available for other uses, for needs in the area, and even maybe a supplemental or a more timely kind of a deal than what we're talking about with the pipeline from the Missouri River, where that 7,000 acre feet goes to the river and we pump it back. Maybe we can figure out how to keep some of it here and use it on a more local scale.
Yeah, I think Brennan Reservoir project was a great idea in my mind, and would have been a lot cheaper water in terms of supplying water for Box Elder or whoever else, rather than pumping it from the Missouri River, because it's going to be very, very expensive water. Did you have something there?
Ron, have you had any discussions with the city or Bureau of Rec Life Issues, any of those entities about joining forces with us on a project like this?
We didn't have any direct discussions on asking for a cost share or supplement for this particular project. The city indicated that they were interested in learning about it, but they really didn't volunteer any money. Bureau of Reclamation, I don't want to characterize federal agencies, but they were a little closed-minded in terms of, okay, you show us what's happening, and then we'll talk about helping you with funding. And I did not endorse the project.
Yeah, so the first go-around on this project, the one that Rosemary did, we approached the city and the Bureau with a specific request. And it wasn't for a lot of money, and we were flatly denied. Now they've been very good to work with in terms of providing data, and they seem interested, but they also seem very disinterested in changing the way that they do business. Whether that's perception or reality, that's they certainly haven't been forthcoming with funding this type of a study.
Well, they're managing the two reservoirs, but the Bureau of Reclamation says you will do this and you won't do that.
Yeah.
So they're taking their lead from the Bureau of Reclamation in terms of day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though the Saudi water falls within this district, we actually have no dog in the fight in controlling what happens. And he's right. He should have went to the city of Rapids, since they're the controlling entity of the spillways, unless it's in flood stage, and then it's Army Corps of Engineers.
Well, the city really is in control. They're opening.
The city's the manager. The city manager.
But they take trust me, they take their lead from the Bureau of Reclamation.
But they're
opening the gate and closing the gate.
Because
They
the
are.
city also sells water for bulk water suppliers to the irrigation districts, which everybody was asking why we're funding.
No, the city doesn't sell water to the irrigation district. No, they don't.
No.
I hear you to look it up.
No.
They do. They sell bulk water to irrigation.
No.
Just as a point of clarification.
I have the numbers from the city water department, because that was brought up. And the city water department does sell bulk water for irrigators.
I'd like to call the question.
Question called second. All in favor of calling the question indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve. Wait a minute, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, there isn't a motion. Okay, so we have a motion.
No, we were just doing our discussion before the motion, I guess.
So the
Yeah, there's
question
no
is out of
motion, which
order.
there's no question to call.
Yeah, the question
was out of order.
Scratch
I
that.
apologize.
Dan,
Never mind.
Dan, never mind.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too.
All right, it's all right.
No.
So I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve the request from School of Mines and Dr. Waterman for the study to continue on learning about how to better manage Dakota Deerfield.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Linda. Discussion on the motion.
I guess for me, this goes back to previous comments about frustration with our priorities. So I find it ironic that Director Koth, the person who wanted to put the kibosh on funding people that are at risk of losing water because they didn't have skin in the game, is now supporting a project for $10,000 more that doesn't have an issue with people losing water to their homes, which doesn't have the stakeholders don't have any skin in the game. So again, to me, this is a clear lack of clarity on priorities. And I'm very frustrated by that. I don't know why we're not supporting tax-paying citizens that have, that might be at risk of losing water to their homes because of an issue that is the same issue on a study that would be interesting and also cost $10,000 more. So very frustrated by that.
Are you talking about Valley Heights?
Exactly.
Well, we didn't have a motion, we didn't turn them down. Huh?
That's because you kiboshed them really hard. They didn't even get to.
Just a second, I'm talking.
Yeah, I know.
Just a second, I'm talking.
You kiboshed them without a motion coming.
There was no, I expect they're gonna come back with something. We didn't kick them out the door forever. We didn't. I certainly, I hope they come back.
I'd like to respond to that.
Go ahead.
What you just said is true. However, both you and Director Koth, and I'm addressing my comments to Director Koth right now as the sponsor of this. Director Koth was the person who brought up that Valley Heights citizens did not have skin in the game. He's now bringing forward a motion to fund quite a bit more for a study that would be interesting, again, where the stakeholders here have no skin in the game. So by his own admission, the people who should be involved in this aren't involved in it. So
where are we funding it? Everyone who controls that spillway, no one wants it. But we're going to fund it because it's an I want, not an I need.
Right.
Just as a point of clarification, I did ask the Valley Heights people whether they were able to get some buy-in from the people who will get the benefit of the project. And there was, I think, some question on how much they could do or if they could do, and they didn't have an entity to actually contract with, and so we asked them to come back. And so I'm supportive of that effort once we get to that point. In terms of this project, I find it interesting that you, in particular, support huge expenditures of money for a project that possibly might not even be necessary if we would do a better job of managing the water that we have here. So I find it very frustrating in that capacity. Plus the fact that you supported this project that we now have a first vote of support on for Banner for many portions of western South Dakota. Our jurisdiction is part of Pennington County.
Are we staying on the topic here? Or
Yeah, we're staying on the topic.
All right, go ahead then.
So the spillway here.
Yeah.
We don't have a dog in the fight. We don't have water rights. We don't control it. We can't even vote and tell them what we think, and they'll go do it. Now, the School of Mines doesn't have a dog in the fight, unfortunately. They're great educators and great learners. But they can't convince them either. So much that they can't convince them to put in a penny, but we're expected to jump through hoops because the School of Mines shows up. I'm not saying the School of Mines isn't worthy, but I'm just saying just because the School of Mines shows up doesn't mean we pull out our checkbook and fall down tripping over it. You should think about where the money is going. Where is it going? For a study that nobody's going to use, that no one wants, that the people that are controlling it told them no, so that somebody's name can go on a study and be published. I'm sorry, that is not realistic. The people in Pennington County need to benefit from water. Half the board didn't want to support people of Keystone, an entire town with water. But we're going to bend over backwards to give the School of Mines a study that no one in the county has asked for. If he brought in 10 people and said, hey, all these people are going to use this study, he hasn't brought in one person. The 3 people who use it don't want to use it. Why should we support it if one person, one constituent, doesn't want to use it? Not one.
I don't want you, Dr. Waterman, to misconstrue my comments. I think this would be an interesting study. I agree with Director Bialotta's comments. I'm not sure if it would be used. I think I'm all for trying to find better ways of managing our water resources. It should be driven, I think, by the stakeholders and not by the people wanting to do the study. If the stakeholders actually stepped forward and said, hey, we'd really like to see this, I think that might be a different deal. But then, as Director Koth mentioned earlier, which I thought was a legitimate question as far as having skin in the game, they should have skin in the game. So it should be driven by them, not by the people wanting to do the study and the people wanting to fund the people to do the study. So again, I think this would be interesting. Is this more important than actually helping people that are paying the taxes that fund the projects that we're talking about? I don't know.
Could I just briefly respond?
Sure.
So the way that I see it, and I totally understand your point, both of you, is that I feel that we have to convince them to want it. And part of sort of the mission of the district is to better manage the resource. And if they don't want, they're the ones that are doing it. If they don't want to do it, then we have to convince them. Now, that doesn't mean to say that we can force them or that we can provide the greatest information in the world and that they have to or well use it. I mean, that's you're totally right there. But that's kind of where I'm coming from, is that we're trying to build up this body of evidence to convince them to listen.
Go ahead.
My big thing is unfortunately you stand to profit from this. Part of the salary goes to yours and your staff and students. The School of Mines staff does earn income from this project. So
Yeah, the School of Mines does, definitely. I don't.
So the School of Mines pays out the teachers and students to benefit from this. There is no one here other than people in front of us that want money who are stand to gain from income. Whether you consider it income or not, you might call it a grant. The School of Mines is going to receive that income and pay students and staff. And there's nobody else here requesting this grant. Only the people receiving income. That should be telling.
I'd like to offer up a substitute motion that we defer consideration of this until we get a stakeholder presented here to a future board meeting that actually requests that this study be done, and then we can reconsider it at that time.
Second.
All right, motion second to defer, to bring some stakeholder in here, I guess. I'm not sure who's going to do that, but discussion on that motion. Yeah?
I think that's a pretty good idea. I think I would certainly be interested to see if the fly fishers would be interested in participating. I have a hunch they would, but the stakeholders, I think that's a good concept.
So I guess I would just want to clarify what do you mean by stakeholder? Would the fly fishers count, or are you thinking like the controlling agencies?
You'd have to be a controlling agency, whoever controls the spillway, because fly fishers can ask all they want, and they still aren't going to get the spillway open. They've been doing it for years, unfortunately, no matter what data they have. Even if the trees dry them up, they won't open the spillway.
Yeah.
What's your idea of a stakeholder?
Excuse me?
What's your idea of a stakeholder?
Let's clarify that. So until a controlling agency stakeholder, okay, Dan has it, stakeholder from the controlling agency.
So that would be Corps, Bureau,
Or
City of
Rapid.
Rapid City.
The only people
Ken?
that can control the spill.
I very much consider the fly fishers a stakeholder. If we're gonna put constraints on which stakeholders, I'll vote against this motion. You know, to me, if I find anybody with skin in the game, that's good enough for me, so.
Any more discussion? Go ahead.
When it came to stakeholders, I remember you leaving out a whole lot of people for a stakeholder meeting. I love how you pick and choose.
We love you too, James.
Let's, I think we should vote on this thing. We're just getting going back and forth. Is everybody in favor of voting on this? All right, all in favor of the motion?
The substitute
What would you,
motion.
substitute motion? Could you read that, Dan? I can't.
Substitute motion by Jovic, seconded by Bialotta, to defer action until a stakeholder from a controlling agency can be present.
Okay.
I'd like to clarify that. I think my substitute motion was to be present and indicate support for the study.
Okay.
Substitute motion seconded, or by Jovic, seconded by Bialotta, to defer action until a stakeholder from a controlling agency can be present and indicate support for the study.
Okay, everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign? Aye. Roll call, please.
A substitute motion, Williams.
Yes.
Nautical.
Yes.
Jovic.
Yes.
Driscoll.
No.
Bierke.
No.
Koth.
No.
Harris.
No.
Bialotta.
Aye.
Mack. Nope. Okay, motion fails.
Okay, that brings us back to the original motion for approval of the contract as presented for $24,800. All in favor of that motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign?
Nay.
Roll call, please.
I have one question. So we're voting to support the sole source entity for the funding. He's the only one here to get it. Okay.
Well,
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So the main motion to approve the request for $24,800. Nautical.
No.
Jovic.
No.
Driscoll.
Yes.
Bierke.
yes.
Koth.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Bialotta.
No.
Mack.
No.
Williams.
No.
Okay, motion fails.
Make sure you
Okay.
let the Valley Heights people know.
All right, it's moving right along. Getting late, isn't it? See, that moves us to item 14. Vote to approve changes to bylaws, Articles 6 and 7, notification time, 2/3 vote required. By Linda, that was your item.
I see it.
We're just shortening the time frame from notification to change our bylaws, and it also is in the policy and procedures. And we're changing it from 30 days to 25. And that's just a benefit when we have back-to-back monthly meetings like we do July, August, and December, January. I would make a motion to amend the bylaws.
Is there a second? Second by Bob. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in
Oh,
favor?
hang on.
What?
Just wait. I just want to read through it one last time here. What was voted on at the previous meeting? which one are we voting on first? Are we voting on both of them?
No, just the
We're
one.
just voting
Just
on the notification.
Going from 30 to 25 days.
Yeah, the previous meeting was just to announce that we're going to do this, not to actually do it.
Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Can it be up on the board?
Motion carried.
The bylaw before I weigh my vote? I was hoping to see the actual word
Okay,
picture.
it's in the packet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
packet.
Page 40.
I think we have the original and then
Yep, they're both there.
So we'll change it to 25 days.
30 to 25.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. That brings us to item 15. Vote to approve changes to bylaws Article 5, conflict of interest, 2/3 vote required. Bob, what's your item?
Yep. We've discussed this in, what was it, last year. And one of the things I noticed is that the disclosure of conflict of interest doesn't include in the title or the appearance of a conflict of interest. And I think it does show up in the text.
What was actually voted on at the previous meeting? Because I thought it said.
What was that?
Wasn't it supposed to say it?
Yeah.
What was the
And
verbiage
it
that was
does, in
voted
fact,
on?
on page 42, there's a mention of this conflict of interest disclosure, potential appearance of a conflict of interest, but it wasn't part of the title, you know. So when you look it up, you want to have an opportunity to know if there's probably a financial appearance of conflict of interest, or simply the appearance of a conflict of interest. So
Is the rest of it okay?
yeah. And everything in red is the new language.
Yeah. I think at, Mr. Bailan, at the last meeting, we just kind of were getting the feel for this is going to be the language, and then we needed to notify you that we're going to vote on it, so we didn't really, we voted. I think we did have a motion
I thought we published it last time.
to present this at this meeting.
But we couldn't act on it.
I
for
thought
28
published
days.
it.
That's why we did.
That's
That's
correct.
why we had to make the changes in that last.
That's correct.
Okay, so
So 30 days wasn't there that we could do it.
That's correct.
And so it's still valid, the message that we sent to the journal to publish?
It's not required that we publish it in a newspaper, just to the board. It needs to be notified. But I think we're okay on it.
yeah, it's been in the wind for 2 months.
Too
now.
long.
Yeah.
And Bob, you're okay with the
Yeah.
language, because that's what the attorney had.
Right.
So that was copied
It's just that.
correctly.
Yeah, the only part is on page 42, the red section where it talks about the potential appearance of conflict of interest. That should have been part of the title, so that there's no misunderstanding. It
Oh,
should
you
read
mean like up here?
Article 5, it should read disclosure of conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of
Oh.
interest.
Is that something that we can change here tonight, or do we have to advertise it? You know,
And I would-
you know then?
I would think we could make a minor thing like that. It's not changing the text at all.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Any other opinions from board members if we do that?
Good idea to make a motion.
What was that again, Dan?
Pardon me?
What was the suggestion? I'm
Yeah, I'll
sorry.
let Bob, because he's
I'd
got,
like to make a motion that the text be modified so that the title for Article 5, disclosure of a conflict of interest, read or, in addition, read or the appearance of a conflict of interest.
Second.
You just want to handle that separately, just
Just
include that,
this.
just that.
Yeah, because it's, like I say, it shows up back here in the paragraph of those.
So we're going to have two motions regarding this particular article then, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, because it would be
Okay.
to change the title and then the
So,
official bylaw
did
change.
you get that, Dan?
I think so.
So it'd be the title first.
Yeah.
You made the motion and Nathan
Yep.
seconded.
Nathan seconded.
Right?
A motion by Williams, who seconded?
Joe.
Nathan.
To change the title of the proposed Article 5 to read disclosure of a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest.
Is that right, Bob? Okay. Any discussion on that?
One minor point of clarification here, which may not be a big deal. Do we want the word "a" in there, disclosure of a conflict of interest, or the appearance of a conflict of interest? Right now, the title is disclosure of conflict of interest.
Okay.
Just a,
I guess the A can be removed.
I agree.
Appearance of, I would agree with that. Okay?
Okay, so change the proposed Article 5 to read disclosure of conflict of interest or the appearance of conflict of interest.
Perfect.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So you need another motion.
Is that the top one? Wasn't a substitute?
Second.
Was it?
No,
I can't
no,
see
it
it
wasn't
on
a
the
substitute
speaker.
motion. No, that was a regular motion.
We don't have that motion yet.
Oh,
No, we haven't made a motion on the last one.
I'd like to make that motion then.
Second.
Okay, motion by Bob, seconded by Nathan. As to the words,
Okay, so this is motion by Williams, seconded by Jovic to approve the conflict of interest Article 5 bylaw changes.
okay? Like I said the last time, I won't be supporting this because that sentence in there, a director who is unsure of whether a reasonable person with knowledge of the relevant facts would question the director's impartiality and matter shall disclose the potential appearance of a conflict of interest and so forth. I don't want to have to decide who a reasonable person is. So I will be voting against this. Any other questions, any other comments? None?
Just as a clarification, I'm not sure that adding verbosity, more language in the conflict of interest disclosure really does anything to what we have now. I think at some point in some of our past discussions, may have been early on when Director Nocterdal came, she said it's really still up to the individual director to be on their best behavior, and to act properly, so I'm going to vote against the changes.
Nathan?
I would agree with Director Coast's comments if we actually had everybody acting with a sense of integrity, but we have seen the absence of that in one of the directors that sits on the board right now. as evidenced by his past behavior. I think that was pretty clear that he recognized that there was a problem when he bolted from the room when this issue was going to come up. And so that is what drove this, from my opinion. It drove the need for this. So I think it's important that we beef this up. Several other members of the board here supported that same director in his efforts to thwart that integrity. I was extremely disappointed by how those members conducted themselves in relation to addressing that issue. So that is, I think, why this is important to get on our books.
James?
Well, everybody's going to get caught up over the terminology, but a reasonable person working for, say, the USGS, who's funneling contracts to USGS, an outsider would assume they had a dog in the fight. And so that's why we're here today. We had somebody who worked for USGS as a contractor, didn't claim they were still working for USGS, who then put contracts, who he was then paid to study the results of our studies, which funded his private income, which is why we're here.
Well, we're going to vote on it as soon as everybody's ready and decide what we're going to do. But I'm not going to vote for this for what reason
Well, I
I
wouldn't
said.
support you doing it because you were supporting the person who worked for USGS and you helped him funnel the USGS contract right to his desk.
Well, any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No. I guess we do need a roll call.
Roll call on approving the conflict of interest Article 5 bylaw changes. Jovic?
Aye.
Driscoll?
Nay.
Bjerke?
No.
Coth?
No.
Harris?
No.
Bialotta?
Yes.
Mack?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Nodigal?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good.
Is that a 5-4 carry?
Has to be 2/3.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion fails.
Yeah, it's got to be
Thank you.
2/3. Motion fails.
Yeah.
All right. That was, let's see, we're moving on to 16, renewal of the Class B membership for the South Dakota Association of Rural Water Systems. I guess my name's on that. You've been a member for a long time. It's, I think we ought to continue to support that organization. They do a lot of good. We've had them in here before. So I would make a motion to approve the annual membership of $540 for the Rural Water Association. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Tom. Discussion on the motion. James?
These folks, forgive me if I'm wrong, not only did we fund it for a membership, we also bought a piece of equipment for them in this last year. For
Yep. Yeah, we did.
and I found it really hard to find. I tried to ask them what areas they were doing in Pennington County, and it seems like most of it was Lawrence and Meade.
It was what?
Lawrence and Meade counties, which this district is not covered. So why are we funding a group whose offices are in Madison and Spearfish? Who is,
Well, they represent, they represent rural water systems throughout the state. I mean,
right, but we could be giving the money to the rural water systems themselves like we did tonight.
Nathan?
I've indicated my support for this group in the past. I think, from my perspective, what I've seen out of this group is that they are extremely healthy for our rural water system systems around the state. They help everybody that I've seen that are members, and even some that aren't members. They're always there. I've also seen that these guys offer up technical assistance on behalf of the state of South Dakota to water systems that have emergency events. They're equipped for that. I was at a meeting not too long ago where Mark Maher with the state was there, and he commented, because we had a South Dakota Association Rural Water System technician in the audience, at how much help they have been in providing assistance to rural water systems in need. So it's not, they basically provide a whole range of technical assistance. I think they do a great job. This is definitely one of the agencies or organizations I think we should be supporting wholeheartedly. They
Okay.
do a really good job.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing
I'll
none-
just agree with what Nathan said. You just can't beat South Dakota Rural Water. They're a huge asset for water systems, for technical and financial and managerial assistance.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion of the annual fee of $540 to South Dakota Rural Water, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
One no from James. Okay, that moves us to 17. Vote to install a new treasurer. Instate a new, is it instate?
Yeah.
Install.
Install.
Install a new treasurer,
Yeah,
because
for one.
our buddy here is going to resign.
That's right. I would like to ask that we have a vote, make a motion that we vote on a new treasurer. Hopefully the new treasurer will take over these responsibilities. Mainly it's for signing checks and waking Dan up. But
I know.
I think there's a,
Yeah.
I said there would be, I think there's a vote, and we take a,
Isn't it just a single passed out, well, take
We have to take
nominations.
nominations, okay. So,
We didn't have we didn't have a
make
second.
nominations. Nomination.
I'll second it. Any comments on the motion to reinstate a new treasurer because Bob Williams is resigning?
So we have nominations?
Well, we'll vote to have a nomination.
There's no motion, it's just who wants to appoint somebody.
Do you think we need to have a motion, Dan?
To nominate.
Well, we should have,
Nominate. You
we
can
should have a
nominate
motion,
somebody.
we should have a motion accepting his resignation.
We don't have to, he can just quit and walk away. Right to work state.
I'm coming back.
He's allowed to.
It's a right to work, it's a right to work state, Dan, he doesn't even have to give you.
Well,
No, I thought that the reason for doing this would be so that you could get your signatures. You would only, if I leave, there's only two, and it's a pain in the neck to get that third person in there on time.
well, you've done a good job, I can tell you that. Appreciate the work you've done.
None of the checks are bounced out.
Apparently, we don't need to have a motion, but let's take, is there nominations for treasurer?
I'd like to nominate somebody.
Okay, go ahead.
Director Nautical.
Okay, and I'd like to nominate Ron Cole. Is there any other nominations?
Don't everybody speak up.
Looks like that. So we're going to vote for Director Nautical and Director Cole. And you got a little slip that Dan passed out here. So if you'd write down your preference. Do you want to collect those, Dan?
Sure.
Okay.
You can fold them if you want.
I folded mine.
See your ballot.
Pass it.
Did you want to comment back, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're gonna tabulate it.
I just wanted.
That's too much pressure.
Hey, you guys can talk about water stuff for a
Yeah,
second.
okay.
Comments only,
I don't, yeah, well, 17, I don't really have any, because it's getting late. So I don't have any comments tonight. Is there any other items from directors? James?
I have something that was brought up here probably at least a year ago, if not two. Do you remember when Jerry Wright came here and pitched using compost from the city and farms? And I said, look, and I said one thing. I said, all the pesticides, fertilizers, and defoliant does not come out of the mix. He goes, oh, yeah, don't worry about that. Well, I don't know if you saw in the paper in the last 2 weeks, not only is the compost deadly to use in gardens, you cannot use it in your garden. They sent out a warning. There's enough poison in it to kill you by ingesting the vegetables you grow in the garden. Second, some of the samples were tested so poisonous that a man was sent to the hospital from just touching the compost, from the amount of defoliant and pesticides, but mostly defoliant, inside the compost. You got to remember, it isn't just grandma sweeping up the leaves on her sidewalk. Commercial contractors that clean out all their lawns that spray defoliant on plants, trees, and everything else also dispose of it at the Rapid City landfill. And so the Rapid City landfills came out in the last 2 weeks and warned everybody not to use it for gardens for food and to be careful with skin exposure.
Are you talking about the MSW or the yard waste?
The yard waste, the Ralph site.
The yard waste is that way?
The yard waste, the Ralph site for recycling the mulch is hazardous.
It is?
It is. They came out and testified to it. I can bring up the journal. I think it'd be a great discussion piece. You can look it up. Rapid City, the City of Rapid had published it in the journal to say it was indeed, in fact, hazardous and to stop using it for vegetable gardens.
Really?
It sent the man to the hospital.
I'll take a look at it. Have we
So,
summarized the...
Director Coth has the majority.
Director Coth. Well, congratulations, Ron.
No one says.
It was my vote that sent it right over the edge.
It was? You? You? You didn't vote for yourself?
You just told him no.
Is there any other items from directors?
Just very quickly, I wanted to let everybody know I attended the East Dakota Water Development District October 15th meeting via Zoom. And because it's late, I won't tell you what they talked about, but it was a very good meeting.
Thank you for doing
If you
that.
have any questions, let me know.
Items from Dan.
I've been working with the subcommittee for the Missouri River water, and so we've been having both stakeholder and subcommittee meetings, and then Dr. Chapman and I went to Deadwood and attended a South Dakota Association of Rural Water Systems meeting, manager meeting, and she gave a pretty good presentation there. We talked, I'll keep this short, but we talked about the possibility of me or somebody doing sampling. I talked to Mike Gould about, there was concerns. I think the concern was if I got washed down the creek and survived, I might sue the board, or there might be some, would our insurance cover that? He said no, although he thought it'd be a pretty slim chance I would have a case, but that's the answer I got. I also looked at some DE&R sampling, and apparently they don't sample for E. coli in the wintertime, so maybe that would be something we might consider trying to get them to do. Then the insurance we have requires what they call a loss control survey, which I did. You just answer a bunch of questions about how we conduct business, and there were 2 recommendations, and I think I passed it out. Basically, policy changes on, I don't know if I should read them, but basically they wanted a policy that prohibits employees from discussing the circumstances surrounding potential liability incidents, and then a policy that requires an employee or volunteer that operates a personal vehicle to sign a statement asserting that they possess a valid driver's license and there's liability insurance on the vehicle. Now, we really don't have employees, so I'm not quite sure that's applicable, but if we address these issues, we get credits on our insurance. And so perhaps Director Hickman Harris, being the secretary, and I should suggest a policy change to try to address these 2 issues here.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The only people that I would think would be construed as employees, since Dan is a contracted, would be the board members themselves. Even though we're on a 1099, we're actually required to be here.
Or maybe they want that in there just in case we do hire somebody, like East Dakota Water Development District has 6 employees.
So they probably would want the board members going to a meeting to write waivers that if they use their own vehicles, just because they're on the way to a meeting, they don't get to collect workers' comp.
What action do we need to take here, anything?
I could call them up and talk to them more about it.
Or
we can just, I guess I don't see a harm in implementing these suggestions then if the question does come up of whether that person is an employee or not, at least we have the language in there that they want. But I defer, we've got 60 days.
Okay.
But I talked to her about that. She said as long as you tell us I told her we only have board meetings every month or 2, so she said as long as you notify us that you're talking about it, that's sufficient to satisfy that we're acting on it within 60 days.
Okay. We could talk about it in the next meeting too. We need to.
Put it on.
Yeah, put it on the agenda.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Mr. Chair, I've got a
I'm thinking we should, Linda and I should just come up with something and then submit it at the next board meeting.
Is that everybody in favor of that? No?
I guarantee you they're going to want something, because if they're asking about employees, they're considering the board members employees, which means they want a signed statement from each board member stating that if we drive around, that we're driving around with insurance. Also, if our license is suspended, that we will not be driving. So there's a little bit more liability on the board member, so that way it frees up their liability. That's the point. The only time this would come in, if you say you're driving to a board meeting, or let's say we're going to visit a site, or we're on one of our travel expenses, since travel expenses are covered. Let's say, God forbid, you go into a ditch in the middle of the night and you're injured. They want their liability not to cover it. They want your insurance to cover it. So they're going to want something from each board member each year.
Maybe you could call and clarify that.
This might be a question for Mike Gould. Director Williams, do you remember when we talked to him? I had the impression you guys were all covered when you drove somewhere. Okay.
I think it's a good idea. Go ahead and use it.
I think Director Bialotta is correct. I think the key thing here is that it says on entity business, and so how do you define being on entity business? And it seems like to me that would mean that you are getting reimbursed somehow for that travel. So I think if somebody is using their POV, privately owned vehicle, to go someplace, they're going to get reimbursed for that mileage to go there, then there should be something there. Those of us who sit on the board that get reimbursed for mileage to come to and from the board meetings probably should have that. If you don't, you probably don't need that. Because technically you're not on entity business, I don't think, unless you're getting reimbursed for that.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay.
So
But I don't get mileage, so.
I'm not sure I heard all that. Did you say you're suggesting if somebody is not getting reimbursed, this doesn't apply to write it, so this doesn't apply?
I don't think it would. So like, I don't get reimbursed mileage for coming to the meetings, and I haven't taken my vehicle to any place to get reimbursed.
But
we get mileage.
well, he doesn't take it.
Oh,
Wouldn't you want the option if a conference came up in Pierre to be able to go to it and get reimbursed?
Well, if that comes up, I think we just have the form and complete the form or whatever.
All right.
Is being real familiar with business insurance, they're stating they want it done for each person for a year. So they're gonna want it like January 1st
It
on
does say
file, so that way they can say, is it on file for our records? Because if they come and do an insurance audit, that's one of the things they're gonna ask for, and then they ding you for it.
I guess I could ask them what happens if we don't do it. All
Yeah.
they said is
Our rate goes up.
we get credits if we do it. Now, I don't know if that means our rates go up
Yeah,
if we don't do it, or the rates would go down if we
just
did it.
call them and see if they can
If they do,
clarify.
and they can drop you. There's nothing requiring them to cover us. Insurance is our rate.
It would be, does Dan have anything else?
Yeah, you
No,
have anything else?
I'm done.
Is there anybody from the public that they'd like to address the board? There's two of you. Three of us. Oh, one thing we, on this banner contract for the next step for Missouri River water, we have this task force right now, which is Bob and Nathan and Wendy, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are going to be here one more meeting.
Yep.
So we may need to ask for some volunteers maybe at our next meeting to replace those that won't be on any longer. Just something to think about next month. Well,
Motion to adjourn.
motion. Second. All in favor?
Get the
Aye.
mask off your face and we can hear you.
Motion. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
well, there were a couple, but I
I figured this is going to go to 10. I figured it would go to 10.
yeah, there were a couple. I heard him first.
Actually, that not covered.
Hey, at least we were done before 10.
Yeah.
9:54, we're getting this like long meeting thing down.
This is going to be a 10 o'clock meeting.
Well, it was 9:55.
Yes,
Pretty good. Now we got
she got a place to stay and here.
Yeah, she's been getting the same place.
Oh, my brother put
He
some on
wants that
house.
here.
And he went,
I
oh,
think she has something.
well, yeah, right now he thinks he's got somebody that wants to bring his whole family.